what's the most obvious hint a girl was interested in you, but you completely missed it? Story 1. I ran into a girl who I knew a little through some friends. We were talking, and she randomly asked if I wanted to play one-on-one basketball with her that afternoon. I had nothing else to do, so I said yes. We walked to her place to pick up a ball and for her to get changed. In her room, she handed me the basketball and then started undressing. I excused myself outside the door while she changed. She then held a conversation with me while she got dressed in my line of sight. Then she asked, "So, do you want to go, or?" And oblivious, I said, "Yeah, sure, let's shoot some hoops." In hindsight, there was a lot of one-sided flirting on the court and afterward. She again invited me to her place to cool down. But I declined as I was sweaty and I went home to shower. Story 2. Looked up at me while clinging to my arm and stating, "I could definitely see myself dating someone like you." My brain was like, neat, maybe one day I'll find a girl who wants to go out with me after all. Edit. As this has blown up a bit, I will elaborate because it gets better. She continued this rather affectionate clinging for about a week, constantly holding on to my arm and making puppy dog eyes up at me. After that week, my friend asked her out and she accepted. They dated for 2 weeks before they discovered that they were blood-related first cousins. Then they continued dating for another week. It's funny how life can throw these curveballs at us, but it's also a good reminder that sometimes things just don't work out the way we expect. I can only imagine the awkwardness when they found out they were related. On the bright side, at least they didn't continue dating for too long after that revelation. Maybe it's for the best that you didn't end up with her. Who knows what other surprises could have been in store. Story 3. I was in college in the early 90s and sitting in my dorm room alone. I was high as hell. The hot girl down the hall that I had a crush on and spoke to occasionally came to my room and asked if I would watch her dance routine that was her final for her dance class. I was like, sure, and went to her room. The room was dark except for some red lighting. I sat on the couch and she put on Enigma. This was a very clear sign that I missed completely. She began her dance. She was in a unitard and I was totally hot for this girl. She did what I would now consider a personal lap dance for me. I was petrified with lust over the whole thing. When the song was over, she came over to me, about 2 inches from my face, sexy smiling, and said, "How was that?" I looked at her and said, "That was really cool. You'll do great." And left. I left. I walked back to my room and left. Years later, I was driving my car to work, just daydreaming as you do, and that memory popped up. I would have kicked myself had I been able to. Story 4. I was in Starbucks in Argentina, and the girl taking my order asked my name to write on the cup. She didn't understand what I said, and when I picked up the cup, it said Diego, which isn't my name. Later that night, I was chatting with the cute 20-something girl in the bar, and I retold that story, and she looked at me with sultry eyes, her top slightly undone, and said something like, "What would Diego do with me tonight that your name wouldn't?" It caught me completely off guard, and I said something stupid in return. It was like being in the final minutes of the Super Bowl, being tossed the game-winning ball, only to fumble it in the end zone on live TV. I've lived with that regret for a long time, sadly. Oh man, that's one of those so close yet so far moments that's both amusing and slightly painful to read. I can imagine how caught off guard you must have been with her remark. But hey, we all have those times when we say something awkward or stumble in the heat of the moment. It's part of life and a learning experience for sure, though I hope it never happens to you again. Story 5. Back in '84, I was working at this cool department store and there was this shy girl I chatted up with. I talked to everyone, so it was no big deal on my end. I was also a movie nut, so I'd say, "Hey, have you seen this or that?" And she'd give me an exasperated look and say, "No, I haven't. I need someone to go with." I'd be like, well, it's a good one. Story 6. In high school, a gorgeous girl sent me anonymous love letters. I later found out she was the one sending them. She also asked me out to this dinner banquet thing. We went, but I was so shy I barely said anything. She still sent me letters afterward. I had really low self-esteem and made every excuse for myself that she wasn't into me. It was like she was holding up a neon sign that she likes me, and I didn't do anything about it. Low self-esteem can really do a number on you. I have dozens of stories of how self-esteem ruined my chances with a girl, but after a few years, I got more confident, and it's not a problem anymore. Low self-esteem is our biggest imaginary enemy that we have to destroy in order to get stuff we want in life. I don't just mean girls, but even some goals you want to reach, etc. Story 7. When I was maybe 15 or 16, a really cute girl I met at a social event sat in my lap while we were talking about the season's new anime releases, and later called me her boyfriend to a few mutual friends. Assuming this was either a cruel joke or just some really weird platonic behavior I wasn't familiar with, both pretty common occurrences in my life up to that point, I left the event without her number and basically never saw her again. After a lifetime of being called ugly, having a crippling bad self-image, and dealing with undiagnosed autism, I had no idea she was actually serious until one of our mutuals got at me weeks later to yell at me for ghosting her. For the record, despite having been in 4 long-term relationships by now at 32, I am still basically just as oblivious now as I was then. It's not great. Reply 1. Somewhat similar story involving my sister's friend. I used to play a game called Wizard 101 when I was at my dad's house. My sister would occasionally have friends over, and one friend, in particular, seemed to really like wizards. She'd force herself into the chair, which didn't have removable arms, and we'd sit squished like that. Eventually, my dad got a new chair that was too small to allow that, so she'd sit on my lap. Despite the fact that she was really flirty, it never dawned on me, probably because of the, at the time, undiagnosed autism. Only found out because she and my sister got into a fight, and my sister told me. Story 8. At the bar about 10 years ago, she and I kept making eye contact. Every time our eyes would lock, she would smile and play with her hair. I'd just nod. She eventually came up to the bar next to me when there was no one at the front of the bar. She bumped into me after getting her drink and spilled it on my shirt. She immediately grabbed napkins and kept apologizing profusely and using the napkins to dry my shirt. I kept telling her it was fine. She offered me her number and kept saying she owed me a shirt and I should contact her tomorrow because she would get me one. And maybe some lunch. I refused but took her phone to be polite. Never entered the number on my phone. About 6 months went by. I found the napkin with her number in my jacket pocket from that night. I ended up texting her. Now we are married and we've never gotten that shirt replaced to this day. Edit. As for being dense, we laugh about it and she still gives me about it to this day. The shirt, I've got plenty of others in the years we've been together. Just not the one that got ruined that night. Either way, started out as a failure to launch, but ended up launching anyways. Just not when the button was pushed. Reply 1. Reminded me of one of my high school crushes who had a fuckload of moments where she was flirting and I missed it. But the moment this reminded me of was this. For context, she was my cousin's best friend, and for a few months my cousin lived with us. One day, after moving out, they visited to pick up some stuff, and my crush tagged along. I had reclaimed my room, and my crush wanted to see how it changed. She had visited once before. She came in, saw my messy room, eyes looked around, and she saw my phone, so she grabbed it and entered her number. Pre-smartphone with passcodes. She jokingly said, I named myself under sexiest bitch, you know? So I said, no, that's not true, meaning I don't think she's a bitch. But she probably took it as me not finding her attractive. I tried to edit the contact, ended up deleting it by accident, and was too ashamed to ask for it again. Story 9. Beginning of freshman year. My family would always tell me to be careful who I touch. Sexual harassment is not good. Didn't know why they kept mentioning that. Was antisocial in the first place anyways, and had PE, weightlifting. A sophomore girl way out of my league came to me to spot her. She dragged the bar down so fast I touched her breasts. A few seconds in, I noticed her smiling and winking at me, and I backed off. Said I was sorry and got scared that I would be called in for sexual harassment. She still tried to talk to me and I ended up shrugging it off like an idiot. So, yeah. Whoa, that's quite an awkward situation to be in. It's interesting how life puts us in these unpredictable scenarios, even when we're just trying to mind our own business. I can understand your apprehension, given the warnings from your family, but it's also important to remember that not every interaction is black and white. It seems like you tried to handle it as best you could, given the circumstances. Don't be too harsh on yourself for how you reacted. We all have moments where we don't know how to respond. At the end of the day, it's a learning experience and a memorable story to look back on. Story 10. Out with a couple of male friends, and they brought a female friend. It was New Year's Eve. We went for a meal and got on quite well. She asked if I wanted to taste her food and fed me a fork of food and vice versa. She talked loads with me, and we really got on. While sitting at a table, she handed my friend his spare house keys, where she was staying for the night, and said, I don't think I'll need these tonight. I can't believe I didn't see all the flirting at all. Things got crazy at a bar later and I ended up kissing someone else entirely. The next day, they said, what the fuck are you up to? She wanted you so bad. I was shocked, to say the least. I think the reason I didn't see it was that I thought she was way out of my league, so I was just not looking for it. Frick my life. Story 11. This was when I just started high school, and she was one of the first truly beautiful girls I had in my life and didn't really know the standard. She added me on Snapchat. The conversation slowly became more and more flirty. I didn't take the bait and just assumed attractive girls are flirty. So then she started sending more revealing pictures over Snap so that I'd get the point. Over these photos, I just kept our casual conversation going as if nothing was happening. This escalated until she sent me a topless photo with one hand barely covering her nipples as she sucked on a popsicle. I decided that attractive girls probably just send attractive photos, and I kept the casual conversation going because I didn't want to presume. She gave up after that. Story 12. I have many of these and got what I did not realize was a booty call. Friend of a friend type deal. We'd only ever hung out at events where our two peer groups happened to meet up. Honestly, didn't even know she had my number. She calls me late one night and says she's got a paper due the next morning and her laptop just died. Wanted to know if I could come over and help her. I'm thinking the poor girl must have gone through everyone else before calling me and heading over. I get there and she's in boy shorts and a wife beat. I'm thinking this must be what she lounges in. Sit down at the laptop and promptly discover a virus. She was not expecting this. Took me a good hour to fix everything. I thanked her for the opportunity. It was a new virus, so it was interesting. I was also embarrassed it took me so long and bounced. Reply 1. I was raised by a single mom in a family with more women than men. At a fundamental level, I don't assume things. I've heard too many horror stories. I know many people just can't wait to get home and get comfortable. I have quite literally been just about inside someone and it finally clicked. Oh, they're actually into me. I'm not always that bad, but when I have a blind spot, it's fucking huge. Story 13. I, 21 at the time, was going out with 3 of my friends. Wasn't feeling the vibe in the club, but I stayed since I had to stay the night at one of their houses. Drink in my hand, lazy two-stepping to the beat. You know how it goes. Out of nowhere, this girl comes up to me. I lower myself to be able to hear her. She was quite a bit smaller than me. Say a number 1 to 5, she shouts in my ear. I was confused, but went with it. She gave a countdown and we both say 3. She looks me in the eye and takes my drink out of my hand. While looking over her shoulder, she walks away toward the crowd. I didn't really understand what just happened and couldn't be bothered at the time to go after her to find out. To this day, I still don't know if she just wanted to steal my drink or if I was meant to follow her for other reasons. That's definitely an intriguing story. I can imagine your confusion when the girl approached you and asked for a number. It's one of those peculiar moments that leave us questioning the intentions of others. It's interesting to think about what might have happened if you decided to follow her, but sometimes it's best to just leave these things remain a mystery. You never know. Maybe you'll encounter her again and get a chance to unravel the puzzle. In any case, it's a unique story that makes for a great conversation starter. Story 14. In high school, I had a girl call my parents' house after looking it up in the phone book and calling my relatives because she didn't know my parents' names. They gave her the right number to call. It was a Friday night and I didn't have any plans. She asked if I wanted to go camping because she and some friends were going. I said no, I don't have any alcohol. She said I could have some of everyone. Then I said I don't have any camping equipment to use. She said I could use hers. Also, being as broke as I was, didn't have any money, so I said I don't have money to buy gas for my truck. She said she would give me money. It all sounded like I'd be taking too much, and I said thanks, but no. The next week, her friends filled me in on how she had a crush on me and really wish I was there. I had no clue. Story 15. My roommate, we'll call her M, and her best friend, we'll call her L. I had the hots for her since we were in the same English class in 9th grade. Anyway, on one occasion, I remember her talking about giving blowjobs and how can be too big. In our apartment with just her and I, she picked up a bottle of Advil and asked me to turn away while she tried it out, and confirmed that was about as big as she'd like. Some years later, M and L are having a no pants party, which involved, as the name suggests, no pants, underwear present, and copious amounts of alcohol. I was upstairs during this. I didn't want to creep on them. I had run out of water/tea/soda or whatever I was drinking, so I needed to go downstairs. I tried to be quiet about it, but they yelled "Solonautics" as I came down the stairs. I'm cordial and all, but head to the kitchen to refill my beverage. On my way back, Elle is on the floor in a matching set of silky green lingerie. She holds her foot to stop me and tells me I need to comply with the no pants rule. In doing so, she grazes my and asks if I'm wearing any underwear under my gym shorts. I reply sheepishly with a note to explain why I was going to ignore the rule. They're both obviously very gone with alcohol, to the point that Elle is sloppily eating Chinese food on the floor to abate the inebriation she's feeling. I stay for the conversation, but eventually we all head upstairs because it's pretty late. Elle follows me to my room, which I didn't think much of because there's a mini fridge outside my door where we kept sodas. She then convinced me to play a game, I forget the name, in which we twist each other's nipples in turn. I'm a wimp and I honestly didn't like it. Suffice it to say, my interest in touching her nipples quickly waned after the first couple of twists of my own nipples. This was the end of the night for me. Looking back, I get the feeling there was a chance for more. The problem was she did not hold back on twists of my nipples. Well, that's certainly a series of events that you don't hear about every day. It seems like a mix of a sitcom episode and a story you'd tell your friends to get a good laugh out of them. The no pants party alone is a hilarious concept, but the fact that it escalated into a nipple-twisting game is just the cherry on top. It's funny how life throws us into these bizarre situations, leaving us to navigate through them with a mix of curiosity and confusion. Story 16, and the last one. When I was 16, one of the more popular girls I was friends with invited me to her sweet 16. Earlier in the party, I was a dummy and tried to do a backflip in the bouncy castle and landed on my neck. She was there helping me out right after. It was fine, it just hurt. Later, she asked to slow dance with me. She put her hands on my shoulders, but 16-year-old me had no idea how to slow dance. And rather than put my hands on her hips like a normal person, I thought I was also supposed to put my hands on her shoulders. We looked like two zombies trying to strangle each other. It was awful. I was oblivious, and 4 years later, I was in college. I thought back to that night and realized just how oblivious I was. I have no idea what she saw in me. Please leave your story down below in the comments. I would absolutely love to make a video about them in the future, and also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, Tony's fam, peace out.